ジョーの野郎。鬼姫が完全にぶっ潰しやがって。
Oh my god. Hello everyone, welcome to Joe Consumes Cinema. I'm your host, Fighting Harada, and today we have Ashita no Joe, episode 16. So last episode was great. We had the fallout directly after the draw between Rikishi and Joe. Even though, technically double knockdown, double count out, even though there wasn't a count out because Dangpei interrupted it. Rikishi still congratulated Joe on the win, even though, technically that's not what happened. Joe, not even really an amateur boxer, like not officially at that level yet, going up against Rikishi, who outweighed him, a couple weight classes. There really shouldn't have been any chance for him to, do as well as he did, but, he did. He is that good of a fighter. He does have that potential in him. And yeah, the story of the fight, honestly, it could be easily spun as, a Joe victory here. He got knocked down, 9 times, I believe, but just kept getting back up and then, still had enough in him to land that beautiful right cross counter. It was one hell of a punch, and, that one clean shot was enough to put Rikishi down, and according to Dangpei, they could have counted for an hour. It wouldn't have mattered. But as cool as everything that was surrounding the main fight was, equally cool was, the crowd's reaction to it, the inspiration that you saw. All the other inmates were, clamoring over themselves to get their chance to go in the ring. They were so inspired by what they had seen. Not just the punch, but, Joe's determination, kept getting back up, kept fighting, even though, it looked hopeless. So that was really cool. Honestly, that's one of the few hopeful moments in the show thus far, and it was, really impactful, I'd say. Episode ends with, Rikishi and Joe up against that tree, mutual respect between one another, and they're just admiring, everyone so riled up and, amped up to get their shot to go in the ring. So yeah, it looks like there's going to be a boxing program at the prison, and I think it's going to give the inmates, some much needed structure, appreciation for rules, discipline, all that good stuff that comes from boxing when you really embrace it and you really pursue it. Yeah, all that stuff is great, and honestly, I just want to get right to this, but before we begin, as always, remember to blank, blank, and blank. Still very much a small channel, so every like, comment, share, subscribe that we can get really helps out. I really appreciate it. Patreon link down below. With that, let's get right to it. バッグに顔めがけ叩け叩け叩けだけどリリリリ明日はきっと明日はどっちだ Shibuki Joe Fan Club.
仮にもボクシング専任コーチという肩書きがついてますんで、それもこれもお嬢さんのおかげですわ。
No more work in construction.
明日のためのその日その後はちいとばかし骨が折れるぜ。
The Setting Sun of Treachery. For the sake of tomorrow, 4 and 5 is going to be interesting.
ボクシングの練習時間が短くなるだけだぞ。おい、みんな急いで急いで。これを早くやっちまえや、あとは楽しいボクシング教室とくらてるやつだ。これは今までなかったことですよ。いや、お嬢さんのこのボクシング教育のアイディアは当少年院といたしましても大変プラスになりました。
王がこない変わったんはあの力士戦以来のことや。あの日以来目つきまで変わってしもうた。なんかジョーに魂胆があるのと違いますか。
こいつはひょっとしたらこいつは面白くなってきたぞ。
よーっちゃん久しぶりじゃねえかよ。
どうだ元気か。
ご覧の通りをピッピしてな。
手首を鍛えるためのトレーニングなんだろう。そうだろう。ジョー、そうだよな。
悔しいけどおっちゃん、俺はな力士との試合でつくづく思い知ったぜ。ボクシングの命はスナップだ。グリッとな。そいつが聞くんだ。いや、なるほどな。
あの生死をかけた力士との戦いの中においてすらわしが教えようとしていたことを掴んでいたとはな。
もう一丁なんかいるんだ。なんか決め手がな。
Well, you're talking to the right dude.
よっちゃん、今すぐ教えてくれよ。明日のためにその死、いやその後も6も全部だ。全部教えてくれ。今度こそ力士のやつぶっ倒してるんだ。なんだどうしたんだよ。
The way he was looking when he was talking about Rikishi Was he paroled or something?
早いもん勝ちだぞ。さあバカ押すんじゃねえよ。俺1番。俺は2番2番。俺3番だ。いやもういい加減で変われよ。疲れてる。バカよってってな。早いとこ教えてくれよ。明日のためにその死をよ。え？
よう、わしはな、今度ここの専任コーチになった。悪いが、お前だけに構ってるわけにはいかねえんだ。
対抗試合が近づいてるってのに、俺にコーチしねえってのかい。
This is
そ
a
の必要
turn.
はねえと言ってるんだ。わしが教えようとした明日のためのその死は、今お前がやっていた手首を鍛えることなんだ。まあ、どうしてもわしのコーチを仰ぎたいというのなら、片手掘りであそこまで掘るんだ。
え？
あの鉄条網のところまでほじくり返してみな。言っとくがな。どっちにしろ、あそこまでやってからの話だ。お前のコーチのことはそれから考えるってことにしようじゃねえか。
Interesting turn.
こっちが頭を下げて頼んでるのに、なんであの態度は。
わからんな。あのおっさん、ジョーにあない冷たい態度取ったの初めてや。
俺こんなの初めて見た。すげえ、音が違うよ、音が。
今度はボクシングをやるんだ。喧嘩じゃねえ、ボクシングだ。
それはどういうことですか、まさか力士さんは矢吹のやつが憎くないんじゃないでしょうね。
お前ら何も分かっちゃいねえな。あの試合が引き分けで終わってしまった理由はな、その憎しみがあったからだ。芸術なんだ。1秒でも早く正確に冷静に相手を倒す。精巧な戦う機会になりきる。これがボクシングだ。
さすがに力士とる。あの血みどろの戦いの中から奴もまた大きなものをつかみ取った。奴はこれでさらに強くなる。次の試合は根性だけでは勝てません。いよいよもって教えてやらねばなるまい。明日のためのその後だがな、ジョー、明日のためのその後はチートばかし厳しいぜ。よし、くそくそくそくそ君なかなか熱心だな。そんなにボクシング好きかい？
好きです。僕大好きです。
こう言っちゃなんだが、体も小さいし喧嘩も。
喧嘩？いや違います。ボクシングは喧嘩と違います。同じ殴り合いでもボクシングは違うんだ。怒っちゃダメなんだと僕は思うんですが。
見どころがありそうだから君をコーチしてやると言ってる。どうだ、やってみる気はないかな？
あ、本当ですか？
君さえやる気があればな話だがな。
Are you becoming another Dangpei pupil here? Oh shit, his hand is bleeding. He made it.
ジョー！ジョー、どないした？
とうとうやったぜ。青山。じゃあまあ、せいぜい頑張んな。おいっちに、おいっちに、おいっ。
Yeah, mutual respect now.
よし、もっとスピードスピード。
はい。
俺見ろ、それでピシャッと決まってきたんだ。
Joe's a bit jealous.
よおっちゃん。
あ、矢吹さん。
やったぜ、片手掘り。へへ。さあ、約束通り次のコーチをどんどんしてもらおうかい。
ああ、なんだね君。練習続けて練習を。
あ、は
Yeah, that's gonna piss him off.
肘はいつも脇にぴったりつける。わかったね？
はい。
おいおっちゃん、人を散らすのもいい加減にしろよ。試合は近いんだぜ。グズグズしてる暇は俺にはねえんだよ。
さあ、もうなんだからと雑音がうるさいの。
おっちゃん。
青山君よ、場所を変えよう。もっといろいろ教えたいことがあるんだ。
待ってくれよ、待ってくれよおっちゃん。な、聞いてくれよ。俺はもう見えも張ったりも捨ててるんだよ。今度の試合じゃあの力士に勝てるかどうかわからねえんだよ。おっちゃんの力がどうしてもいるんだよ。見ろよ、片手掘りだっておっちゃんの言う通り全部やったんだぜ。何が膨らんで一体どうしたってんだよ。おっちゃん。
青山君、怪我はなかったか？
Getting the cold shoulder really hard. I don't know. I'm confused as Joe on this one.
わしの秘密練習さえやればあんな名を恐るのに足らんさ。
でも僕、
いいともいいとも。
恐れるに足らん。
ああ見てるがいいぞ。君の方が数段上だ。ああ今にわかる。あんなな問題にならんや。心配しなさんな。
どうしたってんだい。何があったんだい。おっつぁんよ。
明日を目指して立ち上がる。
立つんだジョー。
Okay, took some time just to gather my thoughts. Another really good episode. So this one was a little bit more confusing. Big development this episode was that Dang Pei has been promoted to coach of the kids at the penitentiary. So now he doesn't just have, one student in Joe to look out for. He has, everyone that he, I guess, views potential in and, has that inner fire, that desire. And he seeks out and finds, I'm probably going to butcher his name multiple times, Oyama. And, he's the runt that got in the fight. The previous episode did a lot better than people thought he would. And he has a passion for boxing despite the fact that, he's very undersized and also not really a talented fighter in that right, but I think he has the right mindset. He was talking about what boxing is and how it's not actually fighting, it's more than that. And he's right, by the way. There are a lot of different styles and techniques into, boxing, and I've seen more cerebral fighters do very well, and, how you approach boxing can be as varied as, one person's DNA to the other. There's so many options and variables to work with. It's very clear throughout the episode that, boxing and the inspiration that they drew from watching Yabuki and Rikishi fight has been a very positive influence on the prison. It's given the inmates something to look forward to each day. And, there's another tournament coming up, and they're all very eager to, get done their work in the field so that they can actually, have fun and start training boxing. Joe has had time to think on his fight with Rikishi, and one of the things he took note of is the fact that Rikishi's punches, he would always twist his wrist right before, he would impact him. It's a very good observation. I believe twisting the wrist adds velocity to the punch and makes it a little bit more devastating. And it's something Joe noticed, Rikishi's wrist is actually really strong, so maybe there's something I can do to, improve the strength of my own wrist. So I too can have that weapon in my arsenal. And one of the things he does is he takes a hoe and he's plowing the field with it, but he grips it at the very end of it, so all the tension is on his wrist. It's like a fulcrum where the point of connection right at the wrist or very close to the wrist is what takes all the strain. It's a really difficult workout, and Joe is told to go from where he is all the way to the fence line. He spends the entire episode pretty much just getting to that point. Right as he reaches the fence line, his hand is bleeding from the friction, blisters and them opening up. But he manages to do it, and he goes to Dangpei to, tell him, hey, I've mastered this now. Teach me more. I need more of these lessons. Dangpei, interestingly enough, has been giving Joe the cold shoulder this episode. Not really sure what that is about just yet. I know there's a method to his madness. Dangpei has given Joe really good advice up to this point. There's no reason to believe that he won't continue to do so. But at the same time, now he's the coach for, everyone there. He wants to give everyone their time and, desired attention that they need. He seems to have found, the beginnings of a prodigy in Oyama. Well, not quite yet. He's still very rusty and, learning the basics. But I think he's using Oyama a little bit to get Joe jealous so that I don't know to what end just yet, but there's definitely a reasoning behind everything that he does. So I don't for a second think that, Dangpei has abandoned Joe or anything like that. I think that's entirely misdirection. He wants Joe to feel that way for a very specific reason. We just don't know what that reason is just yet. We also saw Rikishi on the heavy bag, looking in really good form. He realizes why he lost the fight. He allowed himself to be consumed by his own hatred for Joe, which opened him up to the counter to begin with. And he's trying to approach this next fight as, just as ice cold as possible, focusing on technique and, not getting heated in the moment, just, staying steady throughout the entire fight. If he had stayed calm and just, stuck to what was working, he would have won the fight. But, he rushed in, got careless, and, double KO. But yeah, another really cool one in the books, and that's honestly all I can think for now. So, yep, as always, thanks for watching, and peace.